Welcome to the Coffee and Tea Podcast with me, Damiana. This week we are going to get a little snobby as we sip our handcrafted bev and enjoy some quality time together. This is my 7th time trying to film this intro because how many times can I say and fumble over my words? Today I'm drinking a iced latte made with the Kona coffee from last week because I need to drink all of it before it goes bad. It was $27.99 after all. I put hazelnut and caramel in this one with a caramel drizzle on top. Of course, we are drinking it iced, and of course, it is with oat milk because we are what at the end of the day? Queer. And as I sit here and record this podcast on my shiny MacBook Pro, my brand new podcast microphone that lights up all pretty and helps my tiny goldfish brain stay focused and in the moment, I want to talk with you guys a little about this week's podcast. I'm going to dive into the finer things in life. We're going to talk about why preferring the bougier items might make us a snob. Now listen, I was born a dual citizen in the Philippines. Being a snob might literally be in my blood. Now let's see if I can stay on track this episode and not veer off into topics that might make you want to cry alone at 2 a.m. because I've talked about how I feel like being an animal in a zoo exhibit. Last week I made sort of like an outline. This week I've made a little bit more of a script to follow because the amount of ums that I had to cut out during like my little editing process made me want to literally punch myself in my nose. So yeah, hopefully this works out. I've already said so yeah, 3 times in the last frickin' 30 seconds. So who knows how editing me is gonna feel. The goal for this podcast is, of course, to educate you a little bit on coffee. It's what I know, it's what I'm used to, but I don't want the entire episode to be about coffee. So let's get into this week's topic, which is about being a snob. Some people look at us and see that we like the bougier things in life, and that tends to lead people to think that we're snobs. But listen, hello, we sometimes just like the nice things. I mean, here I am drinking a $27.99 bag of coffee. I do enjoy the nice things. Sometimes the nice things are just better. Just like talking about coffee, and I own an espresso machine so that I can get the bougiest drinks every day and not pay $8 every single time. Like, it's totally possible to be bougie and still be on a budget, you know? Like, everybody in their 30s and below, like, we all want to be like these bougie little snobs and enjoy the nice things, but we are all, what? Broke. So here I am buying the best espresso that I can buy so I can live my life to the fullest. $28 doesn't seem that bad when I get 30 drinks out of it instead of going to Starbucks or Dunkin' every single day. My 10 years of coffee experience has led me to not wanting to spend money on things like Dunkin' and Starbucks anymore, especially because the luxury coffee at Starbucks is actually just over-processed coffee that's roasted for so long to maintain that one overall flavor in a roast. That's why when you go to Starbucks and you hear those people talk about it being burnt, it kind of actually is burnt because that's the intention. It's really impossible to get a batch of coffee that huge on a farm to make that much of the same exact roast. That's like when you go to a store and everything says small batch. Honey, that's because it's impossible to make super large batches that will keep up with that much retail sale. It's so much better just to go into your local coffee shop and get individual bags. No, you're not going to get the same coffee every time. Yes, they can sort of have the same flavor profile, but it's kind of impossible to have a plant grow and taste exactly the same when it comes to coffee. Also, the whole roasting process and stuff like that can be different, and temperatures and weather and all of that stuff affects it. Now, don't get me wrong, I 100% enjoy the simpler things in life. I still love a good affordable product, but at the end of the day, for the most part, the things that are expensive in the world are that way for a reason, right? Like makeup. Yes, it's all about technique, and there are affordable items of makeup out there that get the job done, sometimes wear beautifully, and if you know me, you know that I am a huge fan of things like the e.l.f. Power Grip primers or Morphe Continuous Sitting Spray or the Ariana Grande perfumes. But when you look closely at what goes into those most expensive products and how they're made, how they perform on the skin, you start to realize the worth in them. Am I out here just using expensive products just to say that I'm using them? Sometimes. But really, really, you can tell the difference between using a Morphe eyeshadow and an Anastasia Beverly Hills shadow. Both have the complete capability to give you a beautiful, gorgeous look, but I spend way less time blending out my Anastasia Beverly Hills eyeshadows. And in the end, I get to walk away with a flawlessly executed look that I really didn't have to put that much work into, right? Like, it makes sense. I mean, maybe it's just because I'm 30, but I've really started to like step back and visualize what's serving me for the better. And with things that touch my skin, I tend to just gravitate more towards things that a lot of makeup snobs also go for. Kind of for ease of use or like what ingredients are in everything that are ultimately going to benefit my skin, but also sometimes to walk around and be like, well, yes, this is that viral Dior highlighter. It just like feels good to snob out sometimes, you know? Having said all that, isn't it just kind of human to enjoy the finer things in life? Like, it's ingrained in us to get this rush of dopamine when we get something that is bougie. Also, I definitely get the same rush of joy when I order and receive a McDonald's Happy Meal. Yes, I'm 30, but that little toy that's in there, criminal how much joy that gives me for like 35 seconds to a minute. I open it, I'm excited, it's great, and then I never see it again. And I feel like I did the same thing when I was little, except this time I have adult money and I can do it whenever I want instead of asking permission. Oh my god, my little laughs are gonna blow this microphone out of its water. What? Out of the water? I feel like where the snob really comes out is when you start to give me options between two different things. Like if you asked me if I wanted to go to Busch Gardens or Disney World. Of course, I'm going to choose the overpriced park because when you go to Disney World, there's an immersive experience and there's good food and there are characters and choreographed dances and all this nice stuff. And then when you go to Busch Gardens, you see cute animals and trash on the sidewalks. And it doesn't smell like popcorn when you're walking down the street. It kind of smells like horse pee or something. You know, like if you give me a choice between something that is pretty enjoyable and then something that's bougie and snobby, I'm 100% of the time going to choose something that's bougie or snobby unless I feel like it's gonna make me look too snobby, and then maybe I'll go the other way. Like I remember when I was like 14 or something. The snob started early, by the way. I've been like this for a long time. I remember when I was like 14, we were living in Japan, and I had the option to go with my parents to Hawaii. And I think I had already been like twice that year or something, and I just really wanted to hang out with my friends. So I was like, no, I don't want to go to Hawaii. That's boring. And I remember my mom being like, wow, what normal child is looking at their parent and being like, God, I can't go to Hawaii again, Daddy. I've already been there twice and I'm bored. I'd rather hang out with my friends. You know, like, I think the snob started a little early, but also I'm just kind of the person that gets bored of things really easily. Like, if I've already done it a couple times, I don't want to go. That being said, as like a full-grown adult, I really think that if you were to offer me to go to Hawaii, and I had already been twice this month, I would still go again. I would 100% go again. So if anybody's offering me to go to Hawaii, and you've seen that I've gone already, and you're afraid I'm going to say no, please offer, I will go. I'm going with you. You cannot stop me. I'm going. I'm going to do something different. I'm going to reach out to a friend in real time, except it's not really real time because I'm definitely going to text them and pause. I'm going to ask them what makes me a snob because I'm running out of things to talk about in this podcast already. And we're like, 5 minutes in? I need to last 20 minutes at least. I sound like your boyfriend when he just got home from a long vacation and he really just wants to last 20 minutes, but he really can't. That's me right now, trying to make this podcast last longer than it actually is. I think the script is doing me a downfall because I literally read through the script in the first 35 seconds and I've just been talking off the top of my head for the past, 3 minutes because I'm sure you can hear all of the ums and the little pauses that I've had to do to cut out ums in real time so I don't have to edit it later and hate myself. Anyway, let me text my friend and see what makes me a snob. Dear Mr. Kyle, what makes me a snob? Answer quickly or face death. Wow, you really try a phone a friend frickin' segment in your new podcast after they begged you to be called out in the podcast, and then they take their time to reply. See if I frickin' say your name again in this podcast, Mr. Kyle. Also, face death. As we're waiting for the phone a friend portion to continue. I literally just remembered this one time that I was in high school. It was like one of the first times somebody called me a snob. This one girl in my class told me that she hates when I walk through the hallway because I walk with my nose up in the air like I'm better than everybody else. And I think at this moment in time, I'm starting to realize that being a snob isn't being materialistic, or maybe that is the same thing. Well, I need to do a quick little Google search. I think maybe I don't know what snob means. Maybe I'm just dumb. Okay, so I'm reading it and I feel like I see where I sort of went wrong mentally. The dictionary definition of being a snob from Oxford is a person with an exaggerated respect for high social position or wealth who seeks to associate with social superiors and dislikes people or activities regarded as lower class. I don't think I think anybody's lower class than me, but this other one says one who tends to rebuff, avoid, or ignore those regarded as inferior. Wait, no, wait. The second part says one who has an offensive air of superiority in manners or knowledge of taste. Wait, hold on. Hold on. Okay, this other one says a person who thinks that their taste is superior. And I think that's what I stopped at, is that I think that sometimes I just have like superior taste for the higher, finer things in life. But then I didn't know that I was also comparing myself to others. I, I didn't know that being a snob was making me think that other people were lesser than me. I don't think other people are lesser than me. I do think that all men are trash, but that is neither here nor there. I promise I'm not a real life snob. I promise. I love everybody except men. Okay, back to the phone a friend portion. I texted a group chat and my friend Deanna replied and she said, I don't think this makes you a snob, but I can see how it could to those it applies to, but you only have so much tolerance for people's ignorance and lack of will. They have 2 to 3 times to complain about something until you're over it, especially if you've already given advice. She said some may say it comes across as you're smarter than them, possibly better. It gives a "it couldn't be me" attitude, but truth hurts. Hashtag Lizzo. I can think of so many times that somebody has come to me and asked for advice, and I've given them advice that I think is sound. I'm not a licensed psychologist, so really you shouldn't be coming to me for therapy anyway, because my 2 classes in college is not going to do it for you, friend. I promise you would do way better going to an actual therapist. But I am going to give you advice that I think might get you on the right track or help you move over something that is giving you a rough time. And at the end of the day, if I see you still continuing to do that same thing and you still continue to come to me for that same thing that's keeping you in the negative and like making you put off all this negative energy that I cannot be around because my mental health is way too fragile to be around somebody who is a dark negative cloud. So at the end of the day, if you aren't helping yourself and you aren't letting me help you, I think I am going to move on. And maybe that does make me seem like a snob to them because they're like, wow, this person really bailed out. But really, did I bail out? At the first opportunity, at least. I think I gave you a couple chances before. Maybe I bailed out so that you can take my leaving as an introspective to look at yourself and maybe fix that yourself, because I can't be bothered to do that. Does that make me a snob? I love that this podcast started with me telling you about how I'm a snob, and then I actually realized what being a snob is, and now I'm trying to convince myself that I'm not a snob, but I might be a snob? Like, I don't think that I'm Veruca Salt in real life. But I low-key did do that impression earlier in this episode. Thank you, Deanna, for letting me do that example. I did text another friend, Emily, and I said, not a trick question, it's for the podcast. This week is about me being a snob. What makes me a snob? She said, snobby as hell about coffee. True, talked about that earlier. Told you guys. Refuses to drink water. Now, Emily, how does refusing to drink water make me a snob? I just like to drink coffee a little bit more than I like to drink water. I got a fake Stanley. I have been drinking like 60 ounces of water a day. Nobody come for me. I'm trying. She also said, you cook dinner every night in your house because you hate everyone else's cooking. And we're back to me thinking that I'm better than other people. Listen, I do know that I'm a good cook, and I love what I cook, and I love the way that my food tastes, and sometimes I go to other people's houses and it tastes like you think your definition of seasoning is just salt and pepper. And then maybe you'll put a little bit of mixed Italian seasoning in something and be like, wow, I really made this next level stuff. But I am the type of person who loves to cook with fresh ingredients, like multiple fresh ingredients, multiple high quality ingredients that are going to make something really good. I know how to cook something really good so that it gets a good sear on it or that it's steamed really well. I also make things that aren't boring. Maybe, maybe I am a snob. You know what? I hear it. I hear it. I might be a snob. She also said 15-step skincare routine. That is fair. I do have a really, really, really long skincare routine, but listen, I'm walking around with really good skin and it looks great. So I can't say that this 15-step skincare routine isn't working. Oh my God, I hear my ego. I hear it. And she said, I'll think of more, but I love you. To which I replied, no, this is plenty. I'm about to cry. And you know what? I think this week's episode might have to get cut a little short because I don't want you guys to realize that you hate me because I'm a horrible human being. So I think it's time to wrap it up. Plus, let's see if you guys like shorter episodes or longer episodes. For those of you who sit and do your makeup and drink coffee, I'm sorry. I know that you probably got like your eyeshadow done and now this is over. Might I suggest you go back to last week's episode and listening to that one again and then maybe listen to the trailer again. I'm just kidding. I am not sitting here nervously refreshing the status on all of my podcasts so that I can see how many people are listening to it per second. That's definitely not what I'm doing. That's not what I am, and I don't have a big ego because I am a humbled individual who is not a snob, and I love my life because I'm not a snob. Also, last week's episode was a little quiet. I turned the volume up this week a little bit. I don't think it was too quiet, but I think it was too quiet for me because I have a Jeep, and like when I'm going down the highway and listening to it, I was trying to see if it was too quiet for the wind sound, and it kind of was a little too quiet for the wind sound. So if anybody else has a Jeep and you're trying to listen to it, maybe this is an indoor podcast, or maybe pop some headphones in. Hopefully this week's sound is better with the new mic. Maybe I'll have to tweak the volume a little bit on this week's editing. But I don't really know what it sounds like until it gets uploaded to the platform, because like Spotify sounded okay and then Apple Podcasts was a little quieter, and I don't know the logistics of all that stuff yet, so I'm learning, and let's see if I can make myself louder without blowing out the microphone every time. Like a couple times this episode I laughed, and I'm sorry for the headphone users, the laugh might startle you. Anyway, thank you to everyone who has listened so far. I'm kind of toying with the idea of having some guests on in the future podcasts. I feel like this was a short little taste of that with the phone a friend that I just did. I kind of want to see if I can get some other weirdos like me in here so I can record them so that I can use everything they say against them and possibly get them canceled in the future. I'm just kidding. To any guests of the pods in the future, I'll take a charcuterie board with brie and other luxury spreadable cheeses and maybe a nice chocolate ganache with various fruits to dip in it. Not because I'm a snob, but because I do like bougie things. Also, don't bring any melons. I only want berries. Melons are cheap and disgusting, and strawberries taste really good dipped in chocolate. Thank you. Also, thank you to my extremely supportive store. You guys have heard about my freaking podcast so quickly. Not that I posted it all over my social media, and a couple of you are listening, and I love you so much. I'm so sorry for making you guys spend so much money on expensive things because I convinced you to join the dark side of snobbyhood. A Shelley, Queen of Bougie, with an extra A in Shelley, snob from the moment of birth. Thank you for the balloons. I look at them and ponder every day about only the best ways to bring you back down to earth with a brand new insult you've never heard before coming straight from the depths of my cold, dead heart. And thank you to the over 100 of you who have downloaded and listened to these episodes. I literally thought I would get 7 listens in the first week, so that's pretty exciting. Most of you are friends, which is great, and that one person in Belgium that I'm choosing to not believe is just a flight attendant friend, but choosing to believe that the pod has gone international after one episode, because a little delusion never hurt anyone. I hope to bring you all more relatable content in the future weeks. I will be uploading every single Friday, so get ready to make yourself a little bougie drink, grab all of your snobby products, and sit and sip, and get ready with me to start your treat yourself weekends. Don't forget to follow me on every social media platform you love at Damiana Grande, and subscribe to the Coffee and Tea podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I love you all so much. Anyway, talk to you soon, babes. XOXO, Coffee and Tea. Also, P.S. I got a reply from Kyle. It wasn't politically correct enough for me to say it on the podcast, so I'm going to redact that from this, but I guess that he doesn't have to face death. Okay, for real this time. XOXO, coffee and tea.